All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Also, if you feel compelled to, hit the Cash App, Kennard Stewart, $, Kennard Stewart. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more into the schedule for Auburn and the predictions and how I think the outcome will be for these Auburn Tigers. But let's look at let's just look at it from a bird's eye view for a second. One, you got Akron, you got Alabama State, you have Penn State, and you have Georgia State. Okay. Now, I like the soft landing that Bryan Harsin will have year one, especially with the first two games. Yeah, I mean, I think those are games that he can obviously win. And we talked about a little bit before the idea of Auburn having a top 10 defense. If Auburn's going to have a top 10 defense, especially scoring defense, they're going to have to cash in on these first few games, including Penn State and Georgia State, right? But here comes the caveat. Auburn has a stretch that we're going to talk about a little later on in this video that makes me a little uncomfortable about how this outcome is going to be. But let's rewind it back. Let's just talk about what led us to this point. Auburn has really done their due diligence in the transfer portal, signing guys, whether it's the defensive lineman from Kansas State, Tony Fair, hell, they managed to get a quarterback from LSU. Interesting. Very, very interesting. TJ Finley from LSU commits to Auburn. Right? Now, there's a lot of layers to this with TJ Finley coming to Auburn. Right? Perception says an automatic quarterback battle between TJ Finley and Bo Nix. TJ Finley probably coming to, I would think, he sees social media. He sees game footage. He's thinking, maybe I can take this job from Bo Nix. The coaches are showing me the playbook. I'm 6'6", 250 pounds. I stay in the pocket. I don't flee from the pocket, even when it's good. Maybe I can take Bo's job. Now, a lot of the Bo Nix fanboys are like, nah, this ain't going to happen. But let's look at it. Come on, let's be honest. Come on. Let's be honest. Bo Nix, a 5-star recruit. Is it fair to say the defense maybe has bailed him out? Do you look at Auburn football? Do you look at third down and more than 7? Bo Nix fanboys, tell me something. 3rd and 7 or more, Bo Nix as a quarterback. What is your confidence level or rating as to whether he's going to convert? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. scrambling for his life, throws the ball to the sideline. Yes, we want to, excuse me, we want to conveniently blame the offensive line. For sure. Yeah, maybe. We can do that and get away with it. But how many times, for the sake of, okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go, Auburn fans. Here we go. For the sake of not being getting a copyright strike, I'm not going to show you video footage of this. But more often than not, Bo Nix had a reasonable pocket, just like any other quarterback in the SEC from the past year. Michael Gabriel, you all know him as Mike G from the War Report, stated this eloquently. Said, look, Bo Nix, the line ain't the problem all the way, for sure. Now, I do. Now here are the detractors. We use this as a convenient element to this debacle with Bo Nix, and we say, hey, it's the offensive line's fault. But can you explain to me a 5-star quarterback Texas A&M, a game. Now, here's the deal. A game that Auburn should have actually won on the low, right? Bo Nix, I think middle, second quarter. Eli Stove is wide open. Excellent play call by Gus Malzahn. Bo Nix, nice pocket. Does the usual scrambling that he does. He finds Eli Stove in the stretch flat of the football field, wide the hell open. Nice play call. Overthrows Eli Stove. That touchdown, I mean, he would have walked in. He would have did the whatever dance he decided to choose for the celebration. He would have walked in. Walk-in touchdown. But Bo Nix not setting his feet, fleeing the pocket, not trusting his offensive line, which is amicable to what he did in high school. Those little things, to be fair, is why Gus Malzahn is actually in the Sunshine State coaching at UCF right now. But I ain't gonna dog Bo. I think Bo has a legitimate chance to right the wrongs of his prior youthful experience in the last 2 years. I mean, we'll give it to him. You played pretty much a top 25 schedule. Some of the best talent in the country. However, it's time for Auburn to collect the proverbial check from Bo Nix as a quarterback. Can we trust him? Yeah, well, I mean, I want to. For sure. I want to trust him. I don't want to dog him out. I think, I'm going to go ahead and say I talk shit on Facebook and YouTube, but I never played college football. I think it's tough. I think it's a hard job. But that's what you signed up for, Bo Nix. Now, I'm off my Bo Nix tangent for the moment, and I want to talk about the schedule for Auburn. I think it's a nice setup to begin with for Bryan Harsin and his staff. One, with all of the intangibles, the unknowns, the transfers, and plus we gotta. Hey, let's talk about this. The SEC has not approved yet for some of these interconference transfers to be immediately available. So we got to factor that in too. Now, based on what I perceive with this, I think there's going to be a push to approve this transfer rule in the SEC because too many folks are benefiting. The guys that now Alabama, of course, they ain't gonna benefit from this because they recruit well, right? But everybody else, they need this rule to issue some level of parity in the SEC. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You know that to get some even nature in this whole recruiting thing, the transfer portal is a dream come true for a lot of SEC teams, including Georgia. Now, Georgia got Tyke King, I think his name is, a cornerback from West Virginia. They haven't done too much interconference action. But Auburn, for example, with TJ Finley from LSU, unheard of to be immediately available. We're going to see. We're going to see what, and that decision is going to be made in a few days. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Auburn, this schedule looks good at the top, but this thing gets real shaky as time goes on, right? So, Auburn's got Akron, Alabama State. I'd say wins for Auburn. Maybe some buffers to help them out with being a top 10 defense. I think you need to give these guys goose eggs on the low. This ain't no game where you need to be trying. You got to make some statements here. And then you go on the road to Penn State, right? Is that a juggernaut? For sure it is. Penn State is a blue blood in college football, in my opinion. You mentioned Penn State, you mentioned college football. You mentioned Notre Dame, you mentioned college football. You mentioned USC, you mentioned college football. You mentioned, dare I say, Alabama. You mentioned college football. You mentioned Florida State and Miami. They're on a, they kind of got some issues, but that's blue blood college football. Nebraska, who's kind of shaky right now, is college football. If Auburn is able to pull this off, the media perception will be, yes, this is an upset. But nope, as an Auburn enthusiast and an analyst, heck no, I don't think this is an upset. I think this is a game that Auburn can win. I think this is a game that Auburn can win handedly if approached the right way. But then, guys, after Penn State, you got Georgia State, right? Who is not necessarily a warm-up game. This is a team that upset Tennessee on the road. So you got to keep your head on a swivel there. But after Georgia State, then the juggernaut starts. Georgia, LSU, and Arkansas. Not an easy fix. You got to go on the road to LSU. You got Georgia at home that you tend to play well against. You can't beat them, but you play well against them at home for the most part. LSU, you ain't beat them in Baton Rouge since I was in college back in the late 90s, 2000s. You ain't beat them since then. So a lot on the table there. And then you got an Arkansas team that, I mean, you can't just rest on the first free throw shot. You got to really get it going with Arkansas. I don't like this stretch. I don't like the stretch between Georgia State and then having LSU, Georgia, and the reformation of Arkansas in Fayetteville, might I add. You know what I'm talking about. This is going to be a dangerous stretch, guys. Now, here's what has helped Auburn to be able to navigate through this stretch. They have really ripped the transfer portal apart with pretty good guys. I think some guys that can help Auburn down the stretch with depth and all of these things. But mark my word, put your pencil on this. Auburn gets through this stretch in the SEC between Arkansas, Georgia, and LSU, and you got a good season. Mind you, now I'm going to put a little pressure on the Tigers. You got to beat Penn State. Because if you don't beat Penn State, one, that's demoralizing going into that stretch, and two, it ain't a lot of wins to go around. You got to get them while you got them. Let me know what you think about this video. Kennard, Vernon Stewart here for the podcast, talking Auburn football. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.